There is something to be said when I think back on my time in Rome. It was a time I think back to fondly. As I walked on the first road and stood there among the ruins, wave upon wave of emotion crashed over me. I remember feeling euphoria, a bliss so intense that it shadowed even my deepest feelings of love. Then there was a sense of pride, raging in me like an inferno. Power. In all ways, I felt power as it rushed through my veins, merely being here upon the ground where so many once stood, where an empire stood once untouchable. Rome is legendary, despite the fact that it is but another failed system. In speaking of Rome, looking back at my photos from that time in 2014, I was prompted to ask myself why mankind did not build such monuments anymore. Why did we ever stray from this sort of architecture? Romans were not only powerful, but they were clever. Their monuments and buildings, their pantheons and statues, stood not only as a testament to their strength and wealth, but it also stood as a means to show off pure creative genius. Roman concrete, though weaker than what we have in modern day, is more resistant to the chemicals which cause other ruins to require much more repair. Despite figuring out that the Romans used volcanic ash, which they mixed with lime and seawater, scientists still cannot explain why many of Rome's ruins remain, despite that they're still digging them up from beneath the city to this very day. That all died with the ancient Romans, but I suppose that is besides the point. But this question of why mankind has strayed from the tombs and the arches, the pillars and the pantheons, it started to fall into another subject I had been mulling over: mankind and gods. At one time, mankind built monuments to his accomplishments. Arches served to show the might of an army, thus they would march through the gate one way to battle, and back through the other once victory was won. Tombs were decorated with coins and offerings to those seen as heroes in a populace that was loyal to its nation and the people that nation produced. Architecture was meant to inspire courage and strength, then too to instill fear in the hearts of enemies. It stood like a watchful guardian over its people, in a way, bearing down on those that walked the cobbled roads with ill intent. But this was also a time when mankind worshipped gods, and the ancient Romans saw these gods as giving the people their blessings, and so great pantheons were constructed to hail these divine beings. Like the pantheons used to show murals and artwork of the gods and their champions, so too would churches arise, with their massive spires, their gargoyles, their praying virgins, and their bleeding saviors. Another symbol, another image of power, another image to instill fear. And now, what do we have? Because it's not like such architecture disappeared overnight. It was a gradual change, as times changed. The difference in the then versus now is not that our creativity has grown, nor our method for building has become better or more evolved per se. It is merely the fact that mankind no longer looks up to things like strength and power. Man no longer worships God, but worships wealth, and in that we've lost much of the passion behind what made those ancient ruins. Mankind cares more about what's in their pocket, and our way of living now is less about what speaks to the people, but what merely contains the people, and what is fast and convenient. Gods inspired images of mankind at their peak, of rising above what was thought as possible. Tales were woven into stone as lessons to be passed down to every future generation walking underneath. Like mankind is complicated, individual, and powerful, so too was the shown in their construction. But now mankind is bland, leaning into things without meaning, and thus much of what we see being built is built with no true meaning. This doesn't speak for all of our buildings or monuments, but take a look at any large city, modern, and I'm sure you would agree. What made mankind feel powerful has changed, and everything changes with that. And I do wish the answer were more profound. But sometimes an answer is just simply thus. It is less an essay and more a statement, where some might be able to further elaborate. It all comes back to the same points in the end. Mankind has changed, and in many ways has become weaker for it. So, now we come to the second part of this assignment. Why does man look to God? In asking myself this question, what I found was so many more questions which continued to arise. Why does man look to God? Is it for the answers to the universe? Why doesn't mankind then keep improving himself until he has the tools upon which to answer that question for himself? Why does man look to God? Is it to discover his or her purpose? What stops a person from discovering their own purpose as they continue to live? What stops them from reaching out and taking control of their lives and defining that purpose for themselves? Why does man look to God? Is it for power? Because mankind has power. We just have to be willing to take it, to sacrifice for it, to risk everything at times for it. So what purpose does God truly have? While I have studied Sithism for many years, my roots start when I was a child. I was raised as a Baptist, and then I began studying witchcraft at the age of 14. Whether it be Christianity or paganism, I was always certain of one thing. Power and energy exists in all things. The wind, the earth, every element, and every being is possessed of energy. To me, God was less a form of divinity and more a form of this energy, something felt but that could not be explained. For ancient tribes, it only made sense that they would give these feelings names and faces to relate to them, to feel better connected to them so that they might better channel them. But then, over time, mankind moved away from the partnership with these energies and began to fear them. And in fearing them, in fearing their wrath, in fearing the true nature of people and how greedy they had become as time moved ever forward, gods were born, and mankind became a slave to them. Gods are given names and supposed to lead us on a journey by example. They give us lessons and are used as a tool to shape our thoughts, to shape our morals, and to teach us to keep our heads down and obey in most cases. They are now taught as something greater than human, and they explain things which mankind fears delving into for themselves. But why? Perhaps it's because they do not wish to know the truth. Maybe they cannot handle the truth. Maybe the truth would disappoint and break them. Gods are many things to a man. They are a chain, an inspiration, a crutch, an excuse. But whatever purpose they serve now, it is still weaker than what most of mankind truly worships: ease and simplicity. We are not like the ancient Romans. Instead, we are our own unique brand of failure. And our new empires will crumble just like the old. Only, I don't see the same thing being said for someone walking on the first road of New York when it's finally dug up one day in the future. It will be said that mankind once had it easy, and then more pondering on mankind, on gods, and on the how and the why everything went wrong.